So the Minnesota Vikings are now on a 3-game winning streak after beating the Detroit Lions by a final score of 42-30. They now go into Week 8 with a 5-2 record before taking on the Washington Redskins. My biggest takeaway from yesterday's game was, yes, the Vikings offense was lights out. It has been lights out the last 3 weeks. But if you go back prior to that, when we ran a more conservative offense, that put all the pressure on our run game and the defense. And so if the run game wasn't there, and if the defense wasn't consistently game in and game out, shutting down opposing offenses, then we were absolutely screwed. That would be an automatic loss for the Vikings, no questions asked. Now, we look back to yesterday. The Vikings defense was very disappointing against the Lions offense, to say the least. But that's okay, because now that we're embracing a more dynamic, explosive offensive attack, the offense now can make up for any subpar performances from the defense. So we put up 42 freaking points, and that's okay. The offensive line was great yesterday outside of Pat Elflein, who continues to show you why he needs to be benched. And I talked about this on Thursday, how the Lions pass rush is one of the worst in the league, and Kirk Cousins should have nothing but time. And he definitely did on Sunday. And so the offensive line, they were outstanding. Kirk Cousins may be playing some of the best football in his entire career. You can tell a switch definitely went off in this man's head, because he's playing like he's owning this team. He's playing like he knows that he is the clear leader of the Minnesota Vikings football team. And some of the differences that he's had in these last 3 weeks compared to the first 4, he's sensing the pressure in the pocket. So before, he was just so aloof in the pocket and would just take senseless hits for no reason and would fumble the ball. But now you're noticing, not only is he sensing the pressure, he's actually moving around in the pocket now when those rare occasions come, because the offensive line has been great the last 3 weeks. But he's moving around in the pocket now and throwing the ball away, or throwing the ball in time, or just in time, to his receiver to avoid those unnecessary hits. And what were we talking about? What we were bitching and moaning about the first 4 weeks of the season, rightfully so. Hey, Diggs and Thielen, they are so wide open on these fly routes. How are you not able to hit these guys? He was consistently overthrowing his receivers. But now, the last 3 weeks, he has been way more efficient on the deep ball. He really, really has. And that has made the difference, the biggest difference in making this into an explode. Not just the play calling, because the play calling has been great, but hitting the deep balls when your wide receivers are open, that has made the biggest difference for this offense, which brings up the double R play of the game.
He'll keep it. There is the play action and a deep shot for Diggs, and he got it. Diggs inside the 20, and finally draped down at the 5-yard line.
So this is the double R play of the game for several reasons. Number one, this is a high-pressure situation, in which case the Vikings are only up by 5 points with just 3 minutes left in the entire game, 2nd and 6 at their own 29-yard line. And normally in this situation, one of two things will happen. Either Mike Zimmer will be super conservative, no, we're going to run the ball and let the defense take care of it and end the game that way, or Kirk Cousins, if you do put the ball in his hands, he would absolutely screw up and have a tight butt and throw an interception right off the bat. But kudos to Kevin Stefanski for being aggressive with this play call, and kudos for Mike Zimmer for buying in and embracing this dynamic, explosive offensive attack, and kudos to Kirk Cousins for executing the play. They call a play action fake to Dalvin Cook, and Kirk Cousins throws a bomb pass to Stefon Diggs, an accurate bomb pass to Stefon Diggs, who then gets tackled, finally gets brought down at the Lions' 5-yard line before extending the lead, the nail in the coffin of the game, to extend the lead 42-30. The combination of all of those things is the reason why this is the double R play of the game. Staying on offense, going to receivers, Olabisi Johnson did a very fine job filling in for the injured Adam Thielen. Speaking of which, I don't care if he's technically cleared to play on Thursday. Injured hamstrings, wide receivers just doesn't sit well with me, especially after just 4 days off from your previous game. Better to err on the side of caution. Give the man 2 weeks to fully recover, hopefully, ideally, fully recover to where he can be ready to go against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 9 at Arrowhead. And not only that, you're going against the Washington Redskins. Thielen or no Thielen, you should handle business against the Washington Redskins. You don't need him. Better to err on the side of caution, but BC Johnson did a very nice job. Stephon Diggs, I would say 98% great. His stats were 7 catches on 8 targets, 142 yards, 20.3 yards average per reception. That 66-yard bomb by Kirk Cousins on the double R play of the game. 98% great. I would say he should have caught that touchdown pass from Kirk Cousins, an absolute dime from Kirk Cousins. And then early in the game, very similar to I think it was the Packers. No, it was the Bears game. I think it was the Bears game in which he caught the ball on a slant route and had it punched out. And you can't have that happen. Luckily, it got recovered by the Vikings offense this time. I think it was by Alex Madison. I can't remember. But you just can't have that happen. If you're one of the best wide receivers in the game, you can't let that happen. But I would say 98% great. And then also, we had some tight end sightings. Irv Smith Jr., a dynamic playmaker. Irv Smith Jr. is just different, man. He is a different type of beast. He's the dynamic tight end that we've been looking for out of Kyle Rudolph. Hopefully that he will blossom into him, but that's just not who Kyle Rudolph is. But Irv Smith Jr. is a beast. I thought that Irv Smith Jr. would take over with Adam Thielen going down, but it was a combination of BC Johnson, Irv Smith Jr., and Kyle Rudolph, which brings me to Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph is not washed up, man. Everybody say, oh, he's washed up. He's getting paid for nothing and all that. He's not washed up. He is still a great tight end. Now, Adam Thielen going down brought up his targets because he caught 5 catches on 6 targets for 58 yards and a touchdown. So he still has it in him. And hopefully Adam Thielen comes back fully healthy, because if he is out for an extended period of time, good Lord, this team is screwed. Hopefully you can still manage like you did yesterday, but man, we need Adam Thielen back quicker, sooner rather than later, fully healthy, of course. But assuming that Adam Thielen comes back better than he ever was before, I hope that the Vikings don't just sit there and say, yeah, we're going to keep Kyle Rudolph and not throw him the ball. You might as well trade him to a team that could use a tight end, because he still has it, bro. Think about this. Kyle Rudolph is a finesse type of player. And in some ways that has been kind of looked at with a black eye. It's just like, oh, you need to be more physical. But players like that are more finesse or more focused on their fundamentals, let's say even going to basketball, Dirk Nowitzki, or even Tim Duncan to some degree, their careers usually last longer than the more physical brute force of that player at the same position, such as a Rob Gronkowski. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Rudolph were to last, to play, to be a quality tight end, one of the best tight ends in the league in terms of running routes and catching passes for at least 3, 4, maybe 5 more years. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But Kyle Rudolph had a hell of a game, but you might as well trade him and get something for him. Then we go to Dalvin Cook, MVP candidate. Dalvin Cook. I say MVP candidate because I think right now that is Christian McCaffrey's award to lose. I think he's the MVP so far of this league. Deshaun Watson, maybe he's up there too. But barring any sort of craziness happening with Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook should at least be in the conversation, or at least get a couple of votes for MVP. He's had his 5th game of 100 yards rushing. You look at his stats, he had 25 carries, 142 yards rushing, almost 6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. And there were so many times where he was caught dead to rights, to where at the line of scrimmage or just past it, to where, oh, he's about to get caught. But he was able to use his talent to either get outside on the edge, use his footwork, use his speed, or just bull rush over dudes and break tackles. He is a special player, and I've said it for a while now that Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league. He just has to stay healthy, and he's been doing so. Fingers crossed, he's been doing so this year. We get to defense. I think the linebacker position group was the only position group on defense that was consistent throughout the course of the game. You can add in outside players like Danielle Hunter, Harrison Smith, Everson Griffin, yes, but then the penalty that he had of offsides was just stupid. Goodness gracious, stop going offsides, bro, or neutral zone infractions. Just stop it. But Danielle Hunter, Harrison Smith, yes, Everson Griffin to some degree, and even Mackenzie Alexander to some degree as well, all had pretty good games. But the linebacking core was the one position group on defense that was consistent. Anthony Barr had a key pass breakup in the game. And Eric Kendricks, what is Eric Kendricks not doing to be considered an all-pro linebacker at this point? We're almost halfway through the season. He's playing like an all-pro linebacker. Forget defensive MVP for the Vikings. Forget Pro Bowl. He is an all-pro linebacker right now. That 4th and 2 stop pass breakup that he had to force turnover on downs on the Lions, because when you look at it, he kept his eyes on Matthew Stafford while still staying a respectable distance close to his man. And even still, he was technically a step away, a step behind his man, but then he anticipated and he reacted to Matthew Stafford throwing the ball to where even though he was a step behind his man, I don't remember who the intended target was, even though Kendricks was a step behind his man, he leaped forward, jumped forward, and made up for that lost step and broke up the pass. It was beautiful to see. Eric Kendricks is one of the best linebackers in the league. Then we get to the defensive line. The pass rush, to say it was inconsistent would be very, very nice. No, the pass rush for the most part wasn't really there outside of Danielle Hunter. And I understand, I like the Lions' offensive line. I think they're pretty nice, but I thought, and Matthew Stafford has done a good job this year of really moving around in the pocket, but I thought the defensive line would do pretty good against them. The pass rush wasn't there. I think they'll bounce back against the Washington Redskins on Thursday night. And then the cornerbacks, good God, they were awesome trash. They were awesome trash yesterday. Now, Marvin Jones is clearly the father of all the cornerbacks of the Minnesota Vikings right now. But let's analyze each Marvin Jones touchdown, the 4 touchdowns that he had. Good God almighty. The first touchdown that Marvin Jones caught was on Trey Waynes, who played soft coverage in the red zone. That's coaching to me. And I get it. If you want to call me a Trey Waynes apologist, that's fine. I don't think I am. And I will say it, Trey Waynes was awful, but he played soft. I'm so sick and tired of talking about the same things all year. Why are you playing soft coverage? That was an easy catch and run touchdown for Marvin Jones in the red zone. I'll get to Xavier Rhodes in just a second. The third touchdown pass that Marvin Jones caught, again, was in the red zone. This time you had Mike Hughes on Marvin Jones. So it wasn't soft coverage. He played right up on Marvin Jones. Okay, fine. But the more that the field shrinks for the opposing offenses, then what is the more likelihood play to happen? Is the jump ball. Okay, I'm the quarterback. I'm going to loft up this pass for my wide receiver. You, as my wide receiver, come down with the rebound. Mike Hughes is listed at 5'10". Marvin Jones is listed at 6'2". Marvin Jones is going to win that battle 100% of the time. So if you want to have Mike Hughes on Marvin Jones, okay, fine. But in that situation with such a short field to work with, you need to have safety help over the top immediately. So not just all of a sudden, oh, the ball is in the air, then like Harrison Smith, then reacted, okay, let me go to it. He needs to have safety help immediately to avoid those jump ball situations. And then Xavier Rhodes, there are no excuses for this guy because you're a big cornerback, okay? You're the big guy that matches up with those big physical cornerbacks. He's listed at what, 6'1" or 6'2", whatever it is. He's a big cornerback, and he played up on Marvin Jones both times. So it wasn't soft coverage, and you were there. You just did not make the play. And for the nerve of this dude, after the second touchdown that he gave up to Marvin Jones, he was basically yelling at the world and yelling at the air. Like, how are you going to be mad? How are you going to yell at the world because you gave up 2 touchdowns? What are you talking about? And if you look at the stat sheet between Xavier Rhodes and because, oh my God, if you're going to shit on Xavier Rhodes, you might as well shit on Trey Waynes too. And if you look at the stats, as far as pass deflections or pass defense, Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes, they're pretty similar in that category last time I checked before the Lions game. But here's something that doesn't count, because when it comes to pass defense, you're talking about a defensive player physically making a play on the ball, i.e. smacking the ball down. But what it doesn't consider is taking balls out of play for the man that they're guarding. You know how many times this year that Trey Waynes, it doesn't count as a stat or a pass defense, but do you know how many times that Trey Waynes has put his body in position to where, okay, the ball is in play of the field, but he makes it uncatchable for the wide receiver, to where Waynes isn't making a play on the ball, but he takes the dude out based on his body position. He's done that so many times this year. You compare that to Xavier Rhodes, he hasn't done that that many times. He's either given up penalties, he's given up receptions, or he's given up touchdowns. Trey Waynes could play better, but he offers way more value. He's a surefire tackler. He's great in the run game. If Xavier Rhodes is giving up receptions and giving up penalties, what is he good for? He needs to go to the bench. But other than that, pretty good win. You're now 5-2. You're now, 1-2 in the division. So that's a pretty good start. You now, after the Bears losing, when you consider the bye week as well, the Vikings now have officially a 1-game lead over the Chicago Bears for second place in the NFC North Division. So that was a great win. I don't care that the Lions are a lot better than what I thought they were coming into the season. And I know that they've got their own problems too, but that was still a win is a win to some degree. But based on the way that Kirk Cousins has been playing, I've been very impressed with him. And that's the thing. He's been playing with heart. Okay, he's always had the talent. I talked about Case Keenum. I would take Case Keenum, who played with more heart but lacks the talent, whereas Kirk Cousins plays with talent or relies on his talent but doesn't play with heart. Now Kirk Cousins is matching the talent that he has with equal amount of heart, and that is a dangerous thing for all the other teams in the NFL. He has to keep it consistent. If he can do that, look out. We do this 3 times a week. Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Since it's a short week, tomorrow we are going to do a podcast previewing the Vikings versus Redskins. We will see you then.